Little Doubt by Rachel Lynch. Chapter 1. Ella Watson filled the drum of the washing machine to bursting. It was her least favourite chore, and she stuffed the items in roughly. There wasn't even space for a tea towel. School PE kit, stuff picked up off the floor of teenagers' bedrooms, as well as golfing, hiking and skiing paraphernalia for their holiday, made the machine groan. She had 101 things to get done, and she liked to be ahead of schedule when planning for their holidays. They were to spend Christmas in their chalet in Val Thorens, and she'd got everything out of the loft to wash. It wasn't actually a chalet, more of a penthouse, but one mustn't boast. Despite her list of mounting errands, she was still determined to go for a run. Their house was set back from Ullswater on the south shore, hidden away behind a wall of rhododendrons and an electric iron gate. From the sitting room on the first floor, the lake could be viewed in its full majesty, and Ella paused as she went through the room to her bedroom upstairs. Beyond the lake, she could consider the fells that painted the background to the view and soak up the tranquility. Winter was well on its way. The light was beautiful today, she observed. The ancient trees on the north shore were a mixture of various hues of orange, grey and green. But the warmth of the landscape belied the freezing temperatures. Going to her room, she wrapped up in 2 thermal layers and her warmest running trousers. Her running gloves were downstairs. She might even take a hat. She rarely went into Penrith. It was fairly grotty, except for the castle. But today she had to visit the Apple store because her son, Jordan, had dropped his phone again. She insisted on taking it to an official outlet to replace the broken screen, rather than a corner shop promising deals. Her plan was to pop in and leave the phone, then try out Potton Park for a jog. She'd never run there before, but she thought it looked pretty. It was close to the centre of Penrith, and a nod to rural charm and clean air. The house was quiet as she gathered her things for the morning ahead. Thomas, her husband, was on the golf course. She knew she was lucky, but then they'd earned their privileges. Thomas had done stints in Manchester and London and given his pound of flesh to corporatism. Now, at 50, it was their time to enjoy the fruits of their labour, away from the big cities. They'd lived near Ullswater for 3 years. As she left the house, her breath escaped in vapour clouds. There must have been a frost last night, she thought. She opened the garage and unlocked her Range Rover Sport, throwing her running bag, gloves and hat on the passenger seat. She'd wear a jacket to go into town. The garage closed automatically as she pulled away and headed along the shore of the lake, passing walkers heading out to the fells, swaddled in layers of thermal kit. Their faces looked ruddy and fresh. Her favourite season in the lakes was spring, when life burst through the hard ground and announced itself in swathes of colour. But autumn came a close second. The dark nights, sitting in front of an open fire, preparing for Christmas with the kids, and fewer tourists, all made it feel less crazy than the summer. After her run, she needed to do some shopping in Kissane, but she planned to have everything done in time to get home and take her son to football. Jordan was a sports addict, while her daughter, Millie, hated any kind of physical activity, except skiing, preferring piano and Spanish. The children attended a private school on the outskirts of Kissane. At 16 and 14, they were almost, but not quite, old enough to be left alone in the house overnight. She discussed with Thomas the idea of stealing away for a dirty weekend somewhere, and decided that they'd perhaps try it next year. If it proved to be a success, and they didn't come back to the detritus and carnage of a teenage party, they'd even go abroad. The clear blue sky reminded her of her wedding day. They'd married in November, and everyone had said she should wear fur. But the sky had been just like today, bright blue and clear. It would be their 20th anniversary next week, and Thomas had bought her a spectacular ruby ring, which they'd chosen together. It probably wasn't a piece to wear daily, but Ella couldn't help herself, and she admired it affectionately as she tapped the steering wheel. They'd insured it for £10,000. It was a whole band of the claret stones, in an intricate medieval-style setting. She came to the little hamlet of Pooley Bridge, where the traffic grew thick and two worlds collided jarringly. The south shore of Ullswater, apart from campsites and rugged hills, was largely a haven of peace and quiet. As she hit the main road to Penrith, however, her spirits sagged a little. The sky seemed less bright, and clouds hung over the buildings in the distance. The town was large and noisy, and confirmed why she didn't go there often, though the red sandstone of the older structures was attractive. In the distance, the silhouettes of estates and high-rises provided a drab backdrop. The centre itself comprised a mixture of trendy chains, eateries and pubs, competing with bargain basement outlets and bankrupt boutiques. Ella didn't associate with anyone in the town. Their paths simply didn't cross. If she and Thomas fancied a quality meal in a restaurant, they'd go to a smart hotel on one of the lakes, or down to Cartmel, to the 2 Michelin-starred L'Enclume. She parked in one of the large pay-and displays and took her jacket from the back seat. She locked up as she walked briskly away, bracing herself against a piercing wind. The high street wasn't far, and she looked forward to going inside a shop to warm up. As she rushed through a shortcut alley, she was distracted by a couple of teenagers who she thought should be at school, and bumped straight into a man coming the other way. He was tall and strong, and she bounced right off him and into the wall along the side of the narrow alleyway, banging her elbow hard. "Oh my goodness, are you all right? I'm so sorry," he said. Ella gathered herself and smiled. "It's my fault. I wasn't paying attention. Yes, I'm all right, thank you." She carried on along the alley, rubbing her elbow. "Calm down, Ella," she told herself. The trip to the Apple store only took 10 minutes, and she was back at the car in no time at all. She noticed 2 boys wearing hoodies. She hated Jordan wearing the damn thing, smoking cigarettes by the pay and display machine, and she scrunched up her nose as the smell wafted in through her open door. She slammed it shut, and the boys looked around, sizing up the car and making lewd gestures. Ella was gobsmacked, and for a minute didn't know how to react. She started the engine to pull away, but before she could control herself, she flicked an emphatic middle finger at both of them. Unfortunately, her finger was still raised when she rounded the parked cars, and an elderly man stopped dead in his tracks, mouth open, bemused by what he saw. She quickly dropped her hand and mouthed an apology, but it was too late. The old man looked traumatized. She squirmed in shame as the boys fell about laughing. Potton Park was a popular family venue for young mothers to take prams and picnics, and it was, for the most part, open and pretty. Ella parked easily beneath a series of huge pines and got out. The wind had died down, and she left her gloves and hat in the car. She stretched a little to warm her muscles and fixed her headphones. Running was her sanctuary. Inside her own world, away from children, husband, shopping and cooking, she could listen to her music, wash away tension, and feel invigorated by the outdoors. She set her iPhone to record her circuit. She planned on doing a figure of 8 around the pond and the summer pool. The pool was really a splash area for tiny children, and hers were far too old to enjoy it. It had jets of water that squirted up to surprise toddlers and give tired mums a break.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?